Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube, and welcome to part one of my 10,000 subscriber Q&A series. We got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to go right into the questions. First question, Sean, you often mention that first edition classic books are a good long-term investment in the overall antiques and collectibles trade. I reckon, I love that word. I got to say it again, guys. I reckon, got to say it once more. I reckon that's because they are considered great literature. You are 100% correct. It's also because if you pick a book, like my favorite book is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. That book has a universal theme that a lot of people can relate to. As such, that book has value because people were usually exposed to that book sometimes during their academic career, whether it be in middle school, high school, or in college. And if that book resonates with you, there is a chance that you may want to go back and buy a first edition copy if that book really resonates with you. So when we look at literature and we look at the market for first edition classical books, you have to really look into what's driving that particular market. It's being exposed to something that has a universal theme that resonates with you. And also, if you have the collecting gene, you're going to want to go out and you're going to want to go, well, gee, I want a copy of that book, first edition copy that came out back whenever it was originally published. So that's what's driving that market. You go on to ask, do you think that it's possible for some comic books to one day be considered great literature? Yes and no. I don't think it's going to happen with like Action Comics 1, Detective Comics 27, or even like Amazing Fantasy 15. Those books are not really on par with great literature, guys. And you can cut me up in the comment section below. You can hate me. The truth is, universities, colleges are not setting up classes where they're studying every word or every page of Action Comics 1 like they are with books like Of Grapes of Wrath or Of Mice and Men and The Great Gatsby, Ethan Frome, Death of a Salesman, Dante's Inferno. It's not at that point. Now, you can argue there are excellent writers out there like Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is an excellent writer. His work demands more credit than what he gets. I will state that. So maybe 30, 40, 50 years out, if there is a change in attitudes towards a lot of this stuff, yes, at some point, maybe we get to a point where universities are starting to study certain graphic novels or certain writers that were influential that came out of the comic book world, graphic novel world. Now they're being prized just because of the fact that generations later discovered their works and they go, wow, this really resonates with me. I want to go and get a first edition copy of this. Unfortunately, it's not going to apply to books like Action Comics 1, Amazing Fantasy 15, even Detective Comics 27, or Giant Size X-Men 1. And that's a very good thing, guys. Let me say that again. That's a very good thing. The market for comic books is much more mainstream than the market for first edition collectible books. And if you don't believe me, first edition collectible books can be seen as much more scarce on the overall marketplace. Now, to be fair, if you were to compare a first edition copy of The Great Gatsby to Action Comics 1, I can tell you right now, there's more first edition copies of The Great Gatsby out there than Action Comics 1. But most people are not buying an Action Comics 1. Most people are buying an Incredible Hulk 181, or a Giant Size X-Men 1, or an X-Men 94, or a House of Secrets 92, or a Werewolf by Night 32, or a Tomb of Dracula 10, and they're coming into the comment section telling me, Sean, you don't understand how iconic this is. And what is it that I say in return? It doesn't matter over the long term, number one. And number two, guess what? Look at how many copies of those books there are out there. They're anything but rare. The market for comic books is more mainstream than that of first edition collectible books. Now, you're probably going to ask, well, Sean, if that's the case, how come you recommend investing in first edition classical books over comic books for the long term? Well, the answer is quite simple, guys. When you look at the comparison between nostalgia and history, that's why. Colleges, middle schools, high schools, they're not going to switch their curriculum overnight. Kids are still going to be exposed to The Great Gatsby. Kids are still going to be exposed, or I should use the term students, especially when we're talking about colleges, to Edith Wharton's Ethan Frome. They're going to be exposed to John Steinbeck. They're going to be exposed to Arthur Miller. As a result, over the long term, that resonates with enough people where that market is relatively stable and it's pretty much going to always be there. What we're seeing right now happening in comic books with some of these prices being achieved, there's no guarantee it's going to continue, guys. And a lot of you guys argue with me. Oh, yes, I see the future, Sean. It's all going to belong to Marvel, who is now owned by Disney and DC Comics and all these companies. Batman isn't going away. It doesn't matter. You have to understand nostalgia, history, and also cultural relevance. Cultural relevance does not save collecting categories from dying out. That is the rallying cry of Timmys, Kimmys, and Poindexters who hang around collecting forums all day, all night long, listening to people that propose the same propaganda that they want to so desperately believe. Please do not be one of those individuals. Do something with your life, build something, create something. If in the interim, while you're doing all that, you want to log on to any of these collecting forums, feel free to do so. But don't get caught up in the hype. Be careful who you listen to and understand that both market manipulation and speculation runs rampant on a lot of online collecting forums. Next question. Sean, what stocks or ETFs would you recommend investing in? I know this is sort of a broad question, so if you can't answer it in this Q&A, I would enjoy a video on it. Thank you for your knowledge and expertise on these markets. Okay, this is a very difficult question to answer because I don't know your age, I don't know your risk tolerance. What I can tell you is if you have more than 5 years, meaning if you're going to invest in stocks, if you're going to invest in the equities market, you have more than 5 years, what you should be going after are index-based mutual funds and ETFs. If you have no knowledge of how the overall stock market works or investing works in general, that is my best advice to you, meaning an S&P 500 index fund, total stock market index fund. Start there. Invest religiously on a regular basis over the long term, and you will create wealth. I do not recommend individual stocks to a beginning investor, a novice investor, or someone with less than $100,000 sitting in a taxable brokerage account. What I mean by taxable brokerage account, meaning not including your 401k, not including any traditional IRAs you have. That's what I am referring to. So if you have $100,000 sitting in a taxable brokerage account and you want to take $10,000 of it, 10%, and you want to start putting it into individual stocks, you can do that because that's how you're going to get knowledge into how to invest in individual stocks. That's how you're going to get experience in playing that particular market or trying to invest in that market. Avoid day trading, avoid penny stocks. I recommend that you go after blue chip stocks or up and coming, potentially blue chip stocks. I would not be risking it on stupid penny stock bio firms, anything like that. Be very careful what you put your money into because there's a lot of people right now, especially with Robinhood, even with the Vanguard app, the Charles Schwab app, there's people that literally just think that they're Warren Buffett or they think that they're Gordon Gekko, where they're going to trade stocks each and every day and they're going to make money. The best strategy to build wealth is to buy quality index funds, mutual funds, and even individual stocks and hold them for as long as possible. That's how wealth is created. Right now in the year 2021, we're seeing this with cryptocurrency. We're seeing this with some of these crazy prices being paid for a lot of these collectibles. There's a lot of people that are so desperate to make it that they're just literally taking proverbial spaghetti, throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's really what a lot of people are doing. Well, I have X number of dollars in crypto. I have X number of dollars in Pokemon cards. I have X number of dollars in Magic. I have X number of dollars in factory seal video games. And you ask them, what's your plan? They have no idea because they don't know how to build wealth. All is what they know how to do is speculate. And they go from one thing to the other. And when something else takes off, they get involved in that market. And this is why in America today, 50% of the population cannot come up with a $400 emergency expense without selling something or putting it on a credit card. That's how we got here. That's why even as a liberal progressive, I will tell you guys, I agree with a lot of my libertarian and conservative friends out there on this topic. You do not solve money problems with money. Money problems are systematic behavioral problems in most circumstances. Giving everybody X number of $1,000 per month to go live on is not a solution to anybody's financial woes. And I'm going to comment more on that in another video, so I'm going to end that there because I don't want to go down a path of politics in this particular series. But I will tell you guys, you do not solve money problems with money. Where we are in the year 2021, in the collectibles market, with all this speculation, with people watching all these stupid channels where looks, money, status, I got to get mine, I got to be retired by the time I'm 40, my brother. You guys are freaking insane. Markets do not work that way. If you would take a step back and put together a financial plan, you will learn that it takes decades upon decades to build wealth in most cases. There is no overnight gimmick that I can show you all where, hey, if you buy my course for $99.95, I'm going to bring you inside the antiques and collectibles trade, and I'm going to show you how these markets work. If anybody ever tells you that, please run away from that person as fast as they can. That's why I do these videos, because there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of speculation out there where I really feel sorry for a lot of the Timmys, Kimmys, and Poindexters. And some of you, unfortunately, you turn on YouTube and maybe you see a guy like me, maybe you see a guy like Graham Stephan if you watch the finance channels, maybe you see a guy like Scott Pratt or Rudy with Alpha Investments, and you think, well, if they can do that, I can do that, not realizing how long it took for a lot of us to get here. Again, I almost repeat this every video. I am a lot closer to 45 than I am to the year 44. I know I don't look it, but yes, within 3 months, I am going to be 45 years of age. It took decades upon decades for me to get to where I am. And it was a struggle. I got slapped in the face with celiac disease. I had a lot of toxic relationships blow up in my face. I'm even amazed I got to where I am at my current age. I didn't expect to be here until sometime in my 50s. I got here in my 40s. So I am blessed. And believe me, I don't denounce that. I know that I'm blessed. But a lot of you guys got to understand, it takes decades of work. You're not going to get there watching a YouTube video, buying a course, or following any of these red pill channels that tell you looks, money, status, that's all you need. I'm sorry. Any girl that only wants a guy with looks, money, and status is not worth having. I can tell you that firsthand. I've already dated those women, went through those women. I'm done with those women. So let that be a lesson, guys. There's no easy way out there. You've got to do the work. And how do you do the work? Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially. You level up in 5 areas of your life. If you can do that, you will be 99% more successful than anyone else that tries to compete with you in business, in your job, in finance, in relationships, whatever it is, I assure you. Next question. Sean, do you think CGC not having a population report for the collectible card games they grade is deliberate at this stage? I don't consider it deliberate because there are other companies other than CGC that grade collectible card games. You have PSA, you have BGS, and to my knowledge, both of those companies put out population reports. So if somebody wants to know how many copies of a Library of Alexandria or a first edition base Pokemon card are out there, you can still find that information. You just can't get it directly from CGC at present time. So I consider it to be an issue, meaning at some point I hope that they do put out population reports, obviously, but at present time, I don't consider it as deliberate as what's happening in the world of graded video games, where neither VGA nor WADA put out population reports. So if you get your games graded, you have no idea how many copies at all exist in the open marketplace. Now, to give VGA credit, they did send an updated email where they claim within the next few months, they're going to have a redesigned website. Along with that is going to come population reports. If that happens, I give them a lot of credit. I am only hoping that WADA Games follows suit. What I will tell you is the start of ethics and transparency in any collecting market where third-party grading exists starts with population reports. Always remember that, guys. And I know you guys keep hounding me, some of you in the comment section. Well, Sean, there's other companies out there that do not have population reports. Yes, but those markets are not being as hyped and as allegedly manipulated as Great Video Games right now. When you see a Great Video Game selling for $1.5 million and there's no population reports to even begin to assess the proposed rarity or scarcity of that item, that's an issue. And if you're wondering why I feel so strongly about this, it comes back to coin collecting. If you go back to the 1980s and you study coin collecting, you're going to see a lot of similarities. That's why on this channel, guys, it should start to resonate. If you come to this channel and you just watch me and you're only interested in one collecting category, and when I tell you to study another collecting category, you get mad at me and you go, why is that guy telling me to study this other collecting category? Usually it's because all these collecting categories, the fundamentals are the same. A lot of them are connected. There's also crossover collectors. There's crossover market manipulators. There's crossover market makers. They all understand the antiques and collectibles trade and business economics and finance. That's why they're successful. So if you collect video games and I tell you to study coins and you go, well, gee, that's Sean with Reserved Investments guy. He's telling me to study coins. I have no interest in that. It's because there's similarities, the way those markets started out. I'm not saying that video games are equal to coins. That's not what you should be getting out of this. What I am stating, though, is when we apply third-party grading to these markets and how back in the 80s, coin grading was in its infancy with third-party grading, right now, video games are still in their infancy with third-party grading. You can learn a lot as to what was happening behind the scenes in the coin collecting market, and you can apply it to what's happening right now with graded video games. You guys need to learn the fundamentals. That's how you will avoid falling into a lot of these hype-driven speculator traps. Next question. Sean, my question is, what sort of impact do you think Carl Jope's expose into the alleged allegations against Wada Games will have both in the short term and long term? Okay, over the short term, we're already seeing the effects. There is a lack of trust in the overall marketplace. Now, does that mean prices are going to crash? Does it mean that prices are going to come falling down, dropping 50, 60, 70%? Well, in some cases, yes. If you look at the Super Mario 64, that went from $1.56 million all the way down to the second sale that ended up just a little shy of $800,000. So yeah, that could happen. But overall, the market for graded video games is not going to crash, guys. There is organic demand there. It just needs to find its way. And in the short term, it's going to cause a lot of people to either make money or lose money. Over the long term, it's still uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. It depends. If a government agency, if somebody were to sue some of these companies alleging that they were financially hurt as a result of these practices, that could fundamentally change some of these markets going forward. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I honestly think a little bit of regulation would help stabilize a lot of these markets. And then we can have a discussion. Hey, Sean, where's Magic the Gathering going to be 20 years from now? Where's Pokemon going to be 20 years from now? Where's video games going to be 20 years from now? The problem that I have is a lot of you guys out there, you don't want any type of regulation. But then, if you lose money in this market, obviously the entire antiques and collectibles trade is a scam. And I'm saying that sarcastically because the antiques and collectibles trade is not a scam. You need to understand that from the perspective of somebody educated in both finance and the antiques and collectibles trade, if I look at Wall Street and I compare Wall Street to the collectibles market, well, if I go and I attempt to manipulate Wall Street, I'm going to end up in trouble with the SEC. I'm going to have tons of government agencies up my proverbial ass. If I come over here to an unregulated market like the antiques and collectibles trade, if I manipulate this market, pretty much no one's going to care. And if they do care, they're probably just going to make YouTube videos about it. And eventually, the accusations will eventually go away. That's how these markets work. And that's what market manipulators and even market makers use against the average collector. They pretty much turn their nostalgia and their emotional attachment towards these items against the collector. And the collector, the average Timmy, Kimmy, or Poindexter out there, ends up falling for it. I want you guys to be more knowledgeable. I want you guys to really see behind the scenes over how these markets work over the short term and over the long term. I've said this before. It's quite easy. If you want to make money in the antiques and collectibles trade over the short term, I can show you how to do that very easily. In fact, I've done videos on it. If you guys want me to do more videos on that, let me know in the comment section below. Obviously, 6 months from now, people are still going to be collecting Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, comic books, great at video games. Now, 60 years from now, I have no idea, guys. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to end this particular segment here. So this is part 1 of the 10,000 subscriber Q&A series. I will be back with part 2 really soon. I thank you for watching. Have a great day, and let me know what you think in the comments section below.